Look, I need you to imagine something for a second. You're standing on a beach in what will one day be New Zealand. But right now, it's like 65 million years ago, and the world just got absolutely wrecked. The dinosaurs, gone. The skies, empty. The oceans, basically a pour. And in the middle of all this chaos, there's this one bird. Not a big bird, not a scary bird. Just a regular seabird, probably confused as hell, looking at the ocean like it's an endless buffet that just opened after the apocalypse. That bird, that's where penguins come from. And bro, they were about to have the most insane glope in the history of evolution. Before we get into the penguin origin story though, we need to set the scene properly, because the world these birds inherited was nothing like what the dinosaurs had been living in. For millions of years, Earth had been dominated by massive reptiles. Flying pterosaurs owned the skies, and marine reptiles like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs ran the oceans like underwater mafia bosses. The planet was warm, steamy, almost tropical even near the poles. Life was big, life was loud, and life was definitely not penguin-shaped. Then the asteroid hit. You know the one, the Chicxulub impact, 66 million years ago. The ultimate bad day that ended the Cretaceous period and took out roughly 75% of all species on Earth. The skies went dark for years, temperatures plummeted, food chains collapsed like a Jenga tower made of bone and bad luck. If you were big, you were basically screwed. If you were a specialist eater, you were double screwed. But if you were small, adaptable, and willing to eat literally anything, you might just make it. And some birds did make it. Specifically, seabirds that had already figured out how to fish, how to dive, how to survive on the edges of ecosystems where land meets water. These weren't penguins yet, but they were penguin adjacent, the cool aunts and uncles of the penguin family tree. They had one massive advantage going for them after the asteroid hit. The oceans were suddenly wide open for business. No more mosasaurs snapping them up from below. No more competition from the mega-predators that had ruled the seas. It was like every other player rage quit the server and left all the loot behind. So here's the catalyst, the central question that drives this whole story. How does a flying bird, something designed by millions of years of evolution to soar through the air, decide to ditch the skies entirely and become a permanent underwater rocket? Because that's what penguins did. They looked at flight, one of nature's greatest superpowers, and said, nah, we're good, and traded it for something even better. Hydrofoil flippers and the ability to swim faster than most fish. Now, you might think this is a downgrade. Why would anything give up flight? Flight is freedom. Flight is survival. Flight is literally escaping danger by leaving the ground. But here's the thing, flight is also expensive. It costs insane amounts of energy to maintain those lightweight hollow bones, to keep your body mass low enough to get airborne, to constantly burn calories flapping through the air. And if the ocean is absolutely stuffed with fish, krill, squid, and zero predators to stop you from eating them, maybe, just maybe, swimming becomes the better deal. The early proto-penguins started spending more time underwater. At first, it was probably just diving for food, like modern cormorants or diving petrels do. They'd flap their wings underwater to propel themselves, chase down fish, then pop back up to the surface and fly away. But evolution is a relentless optimizer, and over millions of years, natural selection started fine-tuning these birds for one thing only: underwater performance. Their wings got stiffer, more paddle-like. Their bones got denser, which made them less buoyant, which made diving easier. Their bodies got more streamlined, more torpedo-shaped. Every generation, the best swimmers had more babies, and the ability to fly became less and less important until eventually it vanished completely. You have to understand how wild this is from an evolutionary perspective. Most animals that lose a trait lose it because it's useless or because maintaining it would kill them. Penguins lost flight because they found something better. They didn't lose flight like a broken car loses its wheels. They traded flight in like you trade in a sedan for a submarine because you realized you live underwater now. By about 50 to 60 million years ago, we start seeing fossils that are unmistakably penguin. Not modern penguins, mind you, but big, weird, ancient versions that would make you do a double take if you saw one waddling toward you on a beach. Some of these early penguins were absolute units. We're talking species like Kumimano by sea, which lived in New Zealand about 60 million years ago and stood nearly 6 feet tall, weighing somewhere around 200 pounds. This bird was the size of a full-grown human. Imagine swimming in the ocean and this massive tuxedo-wearing torpedo comes screaming past you like an underwater freight train. Terrifying and also kind of majestic. And here's where it gets even more interesting. These giant penguins thrived during a period called the Paleocene and Eocene, when global temperatures were significantly warmer than today. We think of penguins as cold-weather animals now, but back then, they were living in temperate and even subtropical waters. The Southern Ocean wasn't the frozen hellscape it is today. It was more like a massive, productive fishing ground with relatively mild temperatures, and penguins were absolutely dominating it. They had no competition, tons of food, and millions of years to refine their hunting strategies. But then, plot twist, things started to change. Around 34 million years ago, the Earth began cooling down significantly. Antarctica, which had been a green, forested continent, started freezing over. Ocean currents shifted, creating the Antarctic circumpolar current, which basically turned Antarctica into a giant freezer isolated from the rest of the world's oceans. The Southern Ocean got colder, harsher, more extreme. For most animals, this would have been a disaster. For penguins, this was a bankruptcy. Penguins had already spent tens of millions of years perfecting the art of underwater hunting in cold water. They had dense bones that let them dive deep without wasting energy fighting buoyancy. They had flippers that turned them into aquatic fighter jets. They had insulating feathers packed so tightly that water couldn't penetrate them. And they already developed countercurrent heat exchange systems in their flippers and legs that let them conserve body heat even in freezing water. When the Southern Ocean turned into an ice bath, most animals bailed. Penguins leaned in. This is when we start seeing the diversification of penguin species into the forms we recognize today. Emperor penguins, the giants of the modern penguin world, evolved to breed on the Antarctic ice itself, enduring the harshest winters on the planet. Adelie penguins became the scrappy survivors of the Antarctic coast. King penguins, Gensu penguins, chinstrap penguins, all of them carved out their own niches in this frozen ocean ecosystem. And they didn't just survive, they thrived. Today, there are around 18 species of penguins, and they're found from Antarctica all the way up to the Galapagos Islands on the equator, though the vast majority stick to the southern hemisphere where the fishing is best. But here's the thing that really makes the penguin story so fascinating. Penguins didn't just adapt to the cold, they became the cold. They became so specialized for life in icy waters that they literally couldn't live anywhere else without serious help. Modern penguins have metabolisms cranked up to 11, burning calories at an insane rate to maintain their body temperature. They have to eat constantly, which is why you see them spending so much time hunting. An emperor penguin can dive over 500 meters deep and hold its breath for more than 20 minutes, hunting fish and squid in total darkness under the ice. That's not just adaptation, that's mastery. And yet, For all their success, penguins are also incredibly vulnerable. They're so specialized that they can't adapt quickly to rapid environmental changes. Climate change is warming the oceans, shifting fish populations, melting the sea ice that some species depend on for breeding. Overfishing is depleting the krill and fish that penguins need to survive. Pollution, habitat destruction, introduced predators on islands where penguins breed. All of these are threats that penguins didn't have to deal with for millions of years. Evolution equipped them to handle ice ages and ocean currents, but it didn't prepare them for us. The Great Hatch, that moment 65 million years ago when a few scrappy seabirds looked at the post-apocalyptic ocean and decided to go all-in on swimming, was one of evolution's most successful experiments. It created a lineage of birds so perfectly adapted to their environment that they became icons of resilience, determination, and honestly, just pure drip. Because let's be real, no other bird looks as sharp as a penguin. That black and white tuxedo pattern isn't just for show, it's camouflage. From below, their white bellies blend with the bright surface of the water. From above, their black backs blend with the dark ocean depths. They're stylish and functional, the ultimate evolutionary flex. Penguins are living proof that sometimes the best way forward is to completely reinvent yourself. They gave up the sky to conquer the sea, and in doing so, they became one of the most successful groups of seabirds on the planet. They survived mass extinctions, ice ages, ocean upheavals, and millions of years of evolutionary pressure. They're still here, still diving, still hunting, still waddling across ice sheets like they own the place, because honestly, they kind of do. So the next time you see a penguin, whether it's in a documentary or at a zoo or on some nature live stream, remember that you're looking at the end result of one of the longest, weirdest, most successful evolutionary journeys in the history of life on Earth. You're re-looking at a bird that said no, thanks to the sky, and became a master of the deep instead. You're re-looking at a creature that turned a global catastrophe into an opportunity and ran with it for 65 million years. And honestly, that's pretty damn cool. The Great Hatch wasn't just about survival. It was about transformation, adaptation, and finding your niche even when the whole world is falling apart. Penguins didn't just survive the end of the dinosaurs. They thrived because of it. And that legacy, that stubborn, flippered, tuxedoed legacy, is still swimming through our oceans today.